Number, please.
365
Is it 365
6568
6568?
6578.
6578. So it's 6568 6578.
Yes.
Thank you, Alvina.
Okay.
Morning, Portia. Will you take my student number also, please?
Morning, yes, will do. Am I speaking to?
Caitlin.
Caitlin, you may give it to me, please.
It's 69
Yes, 69
317
317
666.
666. 69 317 666.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
CCP, where your mic is on. I think it's your mic.
I've just removed the one participant from the meeting because their mics keep on
Yes, we
going
also
on.
like I can't hear nothing clearly.
Sorry.
Like your mic or something is very soft. Like I can't hear clearly.
Whose mic is soft?
Portia.
Portia, I can hear you clearly. Can the others hear you clearly?
Students, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Good morning, Portia. Good morning, Adele. Good morning, the rest of the students.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Courtney. Good morning, students, and welcome to today's session. Today we'll be speaking about lesson planning. We'll talk about what lesson planning is, what it entails, the characteristics of it, and how to draw up an actual lesson plan. Before we continue with the session, please make sure your cameras are turned off, your mics are off, please. Then please type your student number in the chat function. Complete the registration form and the attendance register. Thank you. Just a moment while I upload my presentation. Students, please give me an indication. Do you see my presentation? Can you see it? Is it visible?
Yes, Portia. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
All right.
Thank you.
Good.
Yes, Pooja.
All right. Right. Please let this be an interactive session. The reason why I'm doing all the steps, the necessary steps with you before we get to the planning of the actual lesson plan is because you must have an understanding of what a lesson plan is, what it entails, and most importantly, how to execute it in practice. So, by the term lesson planning, what do you understand? What is your knowledge? Please share with me, what is your understanding of a lesson plan?
For me, it is a guideline as a teacher for what I am going to teach the children. Normally, when I write a lesson plan out, I don't put today I'm going to speak to you about. I just put my bullet points about what is going to be taught, and that I also know that I reach my goals and objectives for the lesson.
Thank you for that. Anyone else?
For
For
me
me, a lesson.
personally, oh, sorry.
No, go for it. Go for it. That's okay.
Okay, for me, you can't start your day without a plan. So when you go to school, you arrive and then you set out what you're going to do today. So you must plan your lesson. If you don't plan your lesson, then you can't teach directly or with a purpose, and you won't be focused and so on.
Yes, that's correct. It's like they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to
Plan
fail.
to
Fail.
fail.
Yes.
That's correct.
Anyone
So for
else?
me, a lesson, yeah, for me, a lesson plan is obviously to do with the teaching and the lessons. So for you as a teacher, you obviously need to plan the content and how you are going to bring it across, because you don't want to share too much information with learners. So like I think it was Caitlin that said, you just make your bullet points, and from there is where you teach. But it's basically preparation for the lesson.
All right. Thank you. One last comment. Anyone want to add to that, please? Right, all of you correct in that sense. Planning is a teacher's daily guide. All right. It is there to guide you how to teach learners and what to teach them and how the learning should be measured at the end of the day. Then you must also ask yourself the questions when you design the activities in the lesson plan is, what do I explain? What do I want to explain? What will I do to illustrate the topics in different ways? How can the learners engage in the topic? And then also, what are some real life examples or analogies that can help learners to understand the topic? And then lastly, you will be able to interpret what all learners need to do in order to help them to understand the topic better. If we continue, just want to show you the importance of a lesson plan. Do you agree with me if I say once you have a lesson plan, you have self-confidence, evaluation is part of it, you have guidance, give guidance to the learners, stimulation and understanding of objectives? Do you agree by just seeing that words in front of you?
I do.
Yes, Portia.
Yes, Portia, I do agree.
Would you like to explain to me what that means to you when you plan your lessons with regards to the importance of planning?
By the self-confidence, if you stand in front of a class, you can't be nervous, because if you don't have confidence, they're not going to believe what you say is true. And so you must have self-confidence.
Yes, because learners can pick up when you're not prepared.
Yes.
Anyone else?
If you are nervous as well, then you ramble about what you know, and you are not able to guide the learners efficiently. Yes, and also with the self-confidence with the lesson. Sorry, my dog.
No
If
problem.
you if you don't have confidence, that's when you haven't planned what you're going to say. Like if you've typed out and you know what you're going to say, you'll instantly have confidence, and you'll know how to stimulate the learners correctly.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I think with the important give you the confidence to bring across the message and have the learners interact. And like you said with the previous slide, it is real life and relatable topics if you can bring those type of analogies into your lesson as well. And with your plan, obviously, there is what you are going to teach, and what follows is how you are going to test or evaluate how the learners were learning. So is all part of it, and I think mainly gives you the confidence.
Yes, thank you. Cecilia, would you like to add to that? Kathleen, would you like to share?
Yes, Portia, through your lesson plan, you can give learners guidance. If they stuck with the thing, you can show them how to do it. It only shows that you are prepared for the lesson.
Yes, correct. Albertina, do you want to share your experience with lesson planning? And what's your understanding in regards to the importance?
Morning, everybody. So for me, lesson planning, and so with lesson planning, if you are planned, if you're well planned, I'm not eating because I was eating. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit wobbly and I'm waffling. So, lesson planning. If you have a lesson plan, then with it, self confidence would automatically come because you know that you're well prepared. You know that you've you've investigated what you need to your objectives that you need to do, and so with all of that understanding um, would automatically flow. Like you'll be ready. Because this morning I didn't have a good morning, so I'm not feeling ready at all. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Jessica, would you like?
Portia, can I also
Yes.
add something
Yes,
important?
you
I
may.
see you didn't mention that. The assessment like is very important in also for your diverse learners. If you give a lesson, not all of the learners won't understand like equally. So then you must assess in your learners which one understand and which one do not understand. So for the diverse learners.
That's correct. So what strategies will you use?
Like for example, after the lesson, I will go around, check what they're doing. Maybe if I give like you must do this, and they don't do that like accordingly or the same, then I will assist which learners is diverse or have a barrier or so. I will use that.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to add to that? To how you plan for the diverse group of learners in your class?
I work at a school already as an assistant teacher, and obviously you already know who the learners are as I'm helping a teacher. So it is important to stimulate those learners as well with visual aids or questioning them so that you know what they know, and then you can help them or guide them further. But it's important to know what the barrier is. Yeah, so I use a lot of pictures, and also, what do I want to say now? And questioning them, in a sense, not making them feel under pressure, and just knowing that, or telling them that nothing you say is going to be wrong, is just for me to help them, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else?
So under guidance as well. With that, when you're asking your question or when you're presenting, if you're speaking about the weather, or whatever your topic is, in your guidance and in your interaction with the children, you'll be able to pick up what those learning barriers are, um, and you'll be able to, even before you get to the assessment, you'd be able to help them and get the support that they need. You can pick it up while you are teaching them and how they interact with the children and how they interact even with you as a teacher.
Yes, that's correct. So what process are we using to distinguish between the type of learners in our class? Did you ever hear of scaffolding, to scaffold your learners so that you know what their needs is? in the class or the
Yes.
barriers?
Yes,
Oh,
Yes,
oh,
Portia. I've heard them.
all right. So how would you go
In
about doing that?
catering, oh, sorry.
Excuse me?
I just want to add, and as much the scaffold, catering, inclusion, adapting, and all those type of barriers that you must.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Anyone
So
else?
I just have a question. So with scaffolding, is it you are grouping them according to their learning abilities, or am I just okay?
Yes, that's correct. Learning ability and the strengths and weaknesses. Yes. Then you will
Yes,
give that specific group a specific task to do different than the others. Does that make sense to you?
yes, that makes sense.
All right. So let me take you through the advantages of having a lesson plan before going to class. As you can see on my screen, I indicated self-confidence. When you're feeling more prepared, like you said already for class, it will give you self-confidence and it will also make you work towards a definite goal. If you evaluate a learner or if you evaluate, your lesson plan must help you to evaluate the teaching and compare it with a set of objectives. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Your lesson plan, the teacher's lesson plan, help the teacher, it will help you to evaluate the teaching and to compare it with the set of objectives you have in mind to reach your goal. Do you understand that part or would you like me to explain again?
Yes, Portia, I understand. Thank you.
I understand.
All right, good.
I
And
also
then also,
understand it.
oh, good. And then also this evaluation will help you in achieving the set of targets in a better way. Because you sometimes teachers don't get through to the learners, and that is where they don't compare their lesson plan to evaluate the teaching and to compare it with a set of objectives that they'd like to obtain. Then with guidance, as you all said, a lesson plan will guide the teacher in the classroom. And when planning your lesson, and when planning your lesson, you must plan it in such a way that it has a flow so learners can understand. Now you see stimulation over there. A lesson plan normally stimulates the teacher to think in an organized way because when you plan, you're more organized. And then you must also understand the objectives of the importance of that lesson plan that you're going to present. Because through lesson plan, you as a teacher will be able to understand the objective of the lesson properly and then also make the learners understand them too. Because if you don't understand the objectives of the lesson plan, how will you expect the learners to understand it? Is that clear, everyone? Do I need to explain more on this slide?
No, it is clear,
No.
Portia.
It's
Thank
clear,
you.
ma'am.
I also
Oh,
just want to add something with the
yes, you may.
um, barriers and diverse learners. Is something that with PowerPoints, I assume everybody kind of adds a PowerPoint to not overload them with too much info because they kind of switch off if you give them too much to understand.
That's correct. So what do you do in a situation like that?
When there is too much knowledge or too much information, say.
Yes, information.
I in my first year that I did my practical, I overloaded the learners. So I would then rather, how can I say? I realized that halfway through, so I would then kind of cut my lesson short and just make sure that what I've said that they understand. So the end of the lesson will be more like a question session so that I can explain if I see they don't understand, and then I'll just move the rest of the lesson to another part, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's correct. But remember that teachers are doing that now with this COVID situation. They overflow the learners with knowledge. And it's not good because remember there's a certain time frame that they have to complete this work before
Yes,
assessments is being done.
yes.
Yes. So, but if you can also just understand, they must complete the syllabus within this time frame.
Yes, yeah.
So the best thing to do is you'll do it in class now and you send the same work or similar work home with the kid and just
Yes.
revise the next day before you start your new lesson.
Okay, yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone
If
else?
I could add, I think also with lesson planning, it's very important that you don't rush the plan because it obviously takes time. And like you said, like understanding the
Excuse me, just a
objectives is
moment,
such a
please. One moment. Excuse me, student, can you please switch off your mic? Thank you. You may continue.
Did you hear what I said in the beginning?
No, please start again, ma'am.
Okay. So I feel that it's also very important that when you're doing a lesson plan, that you don't rush it and you should take your time to, and obviously like understanding the objectives is also very important because if you don't understand it, how you're gonna, execute the plan, the lesson. And then also with like the self-confidence, like if you don't feel comfortable with your students and don't understand your students, you're not gonna have that confidence. So yeah, I think like with me, like I take time when I do my lesson planning and like make sure that I would execute it in a manner that I understand it and I make sure that the students understand it as well.
Yes, good. Thank you. Anyone else would like to add?
I think with a lesson plan, what's important is knowing exactly what your end goal is. So not to include too much information on what you're planning to teach. So if you take one topic, you know you need to get through that topic. If there is time before the lesson ends, I think then it's okay to carry on. But like you said, Portia, just to reinforce what you've already done in class, to send back with the learners homework so that they can also just recap on that. And that is, I think that is what's important, that you know exactly what your goal is so that you don't put too much information in. And I think that is why you need to plan your lesson, just to make sure of that.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, everyone, for your response. Anyone else would like to add, lastly?
And even also including your lesson plan like body breaks. So if you know you've got a lot of content that you need to cover, in between have body breaks. So like just say something just to let's say let so for example with body breaks, baby shark to do or just to get their mind just off the topic and then bring them back again. I don't know.
Yes, that's correct, because remember, you have kids with ADHD in your class, ADD, and it's important for them just to take a break, because kids with ADHD and ADD, they can't sit still for too long. So it's good to have body breaks because of the concentration span. Then I didn't add on here presenting the lesson. So when you present the lesson, you must get the students interested in the lesson and tell them what it is all about, what it entails. Don't uh, don't leave them halfway with what you'd like to teach them. Then also lastly, you must also always reflect on your lesson, because remember, a lesson plan might not always work as well as you expected it due to the number of circumstances. It happens It happens sometimes. You take a few minutes after each class to reflect on what worked well and why, and what you could have done differently. Do any of you do reflection after your lessons, and how do you go about doing that?
Definitely. I'm a art teacher assistant, and we have to teach the lesson about 4 times a day. So literally after each lesson, I'm like, oh, I saw the learners didn't understand how I explained that, so I'll improve that for the next lesson, or just make the message more clear. So, and then I always see that, okay, they understood better what I said now.
Thank you. Anyone else like to add?
Yes, what I found now that I'm also helping out in class, I found it depends also on the class that you're teaching, because the interaction from each class is obviously different. You might find one class that asks more question or they interact more, so that obviously also gives the teacher that sense of enjoying the class, and obviously that encourages both the learner and the teacher to interact more and to share information better. But in terms of recapping lessons, I never move on to the next topic without doing recap. Or even when I do start a new topic, I always ask questions about, so what was our last topic about? Can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? What is this? That's the way I go forward.
Thank you. Anyone?
Portia, can I also add what I've picked up in class? Language can also be a very a barrier, language, because for example, most of the you must present your lesson maybe in Afrikaans or in English. Then there is diverse learners in class, so then you must go more into detail because of the language barrier in the children, the learners.
Yes, that's correct. And with that language barrier, you can have a word wall. So for each topic, maybe you have a week. You can put up that vocabulary so that language barrier can be overcome. Do any of you do that?
Yes, we do that. It's usually because we teach grade 1 to 7, so obviously all of them have new words that they learn. So I wouldn't have put it on the board, but they have like a little booklet that they put in the new words that they've learned for the day. And then when we come back, or when they come back to class the next time, I'll ask them, can you remember the word that we taught? And then yes, someone says yes, we can. I'm like, okay, what do you remember about the word? What did we teach you? And I find that it helps a lot that they also write it down, because then they don't only hear it, but they've also written it.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
that is true. What I do, we have now moved from writing to making copies for the learners, so they all receive the resources or the lesson plan that I would basically be projecting for them. So as I speak through the lesson and the notes, I tell them just to write the word that they didn't understand. So I would try and give them the meaning in English or in Afrikaans, and even if they want to write it in their home language, I tell them to do the same, so that when they read the text again, when they see that word, they will obviously be able to associate, this is what my teacher was talking about at this point. So that is also how they learn and remember what the topics were about.
Thank you. And remember, if you have learners with different backgrounds, coming from different cultures, different languages, you can always change to the language they speak in, just to explain a certain concept. There's nothing wrong with it. Say, for instance, you have Afrikaans learner in English class and they don't understand the English terminology, you may explain it in Afrikaans and vice versa. Or if you do isiXhosa and they don't understand the English, don't understand isiXhosa, you can just do it vice versa, explain to them. Anyone else like to add to that?
Yes, Portia, I
Yes.
also would like to add what I've saw. Music also. For example, for the different type of languages, then you play different type of music in different languages. So then they feel like they're all connected, because maybe you play the different languages in different music in class. That I've
What?
saw one of the teachers is doing on Fridays.
Right, good. Tell me, what grade are you teaching or assisting?
Grade R foundation phase. Grade
Yes,
R.
that is a good way for them. Yeah,
Yeah.
to do it through music.
Yes.
Let's move on to our next slide. Just a second. Then characteristics of a good lesson plan. Just explain to me what you think, what is the good characteristics of a lesson plan? What characteristics should be in your lesson plan?
I would say your topic should be there, what the learners are going to be taught, and how you're going to teach that so that they understand. Your objectives need to be there. It has to say how much time are you going to spend on each topic, so that you don't go over time and don't finish your lesson. And obviously what grade and what subject, because if you confuse those things, it could be a catastrophe.
Very important. Thank you.
For me, Portia, I think what's important is there should be the actual lesson and there should also be the lesson plan. So the lesson plan is what guides the teacher. That is where the teacher basically just puts the topic that we'll be talking about, but also tips. So let's say the teacher says the teaching tip would be ask learners a question on this, what they feel or think about this. Say, for instance, the question is, should children get a hiding in class or can children get a hiding at school? What do you think? So that would be then the guidelines or the teaching tips that appear on the lesson plan, but the actual lesson is where it is written out as notes for the learners to take down that they can also go and study, and obviously that is in preparation of the exams. And
Yes,
that lesson then is what includes the subject, the time, the topic, the date, those kind of things.
yes, thank you. Good. Anyone else? Oh, Werner, would you like to share with us?
Yes, Portia.
Yes.
And you can't be absent like during the week, especially on a Monday, on a Friday. Like you, because if you are absent, then your learners will fall behind with their work. So then your lesson plan won't be like organized. So for me personally, a teacher mustn't be absent. If they must be absent, then it must be like a very good reason for you to be absent at school. So I would just like to add that also.
Thank you. Do any of you agree with her or disagree?
I agree in the sense that you've planned something and now someone else has to teach it, and you don't know if they are going to convey the message or what you've prepped correctly, because obviously you've got a certain manner that you do it and someone else is going to do it differently, because everyone has their own style to teaching. So yeah, I think what she says makes sense. Yes. And
I would
I
okay,
just
you
want
can
to
go.
add something else with, I think, Joe, I don't know. I think Courtney said this about what a teacher has. I think it's important to have your teacher activities and your student activities in your lesson plan, and that they are clearly stated.
Correct. Yes. Courtney?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would disagree though, because that's why I said if you have the if you have the lesson plan and the lesson itself, obviously the lesson would include the activities, whereas the lesson plan is the guide. And I think if you have prepared your lesson guide or your lesson plan very well, I think
Excuse me,
then
Courtney, you're breaking up.
can you hear me, Portia?
Can you hear you now?
Okay. So what I was saying is, I think what's important is the lesson plan or the guide. Then it would make it possible for any teacher to teach, because I feel not every teacher will be using the same approach or the same strategies in any case. So that will always differ. One teacher might use different methods and approaches to teaching. So if there is a guide, I think it should be something universal that whoever takes it would be able to bring the main message across. So regardless of whether the teacher is absent or not, I think if you have prepared well enough, it would be possible for any person or any teacher for that matter, because there is obviously basic principles that all teachers do have and use.
Yes, thank you, Megan.
Can I just add to Courtney now? Like learners, you know your learners, and your learners is comfortable with their own teacher. So for them to adjust to a new teacher, giving them the lesson, they won't feel so comfortable like the normal teacher or the teacher they know every day, they see every day. So you know your learners know their teachers. So that's why I was adding the absenteeism. Don't be absent like often or regularly, because your learners like are more comfortable with you, their own teacher they see every day.
Yeah, and I think that specifically with the younger ones, the foundation phase, obviously they seek that consistency and not having to chop time, because that obviously then makes them a bit uncomfortable. So I do agree with you on that. But in terms of the unforeseen circumstances, I think there we can make exception for those teachers.
May I
Anyone
just
else?
add something?
Excuse me?
May I just add something? So with the
Yes, you may.
COVID now, with COVID-19, I think with the children getting used to one teacher, COVID-19 has broken that mold, because I don't know about the rest of you guys, but at our school, so we've got teacher hubs, teacher and teacher aid hubs. And in those hubs, so in the foundation phase, the grade R's are on their own, but in the grade ones and twos are together. So the children come on alternative days. So the grade one's children are there, and the grade two teacher supports that grade one. So the grade one children have exposure to the grade one teacher and the grade two teacher. So I think personally that the children getting used to one teacher, COVID-19 has broken that mold, and this is my teacher only. This is my class teacher, because children are exposed to different teachers um, because of, again, of unforeseen circumstances, because we haven't asked for the pandemic, and it's here. So with that, the children getting used to just being with one teacher and being able to respond to one teacher only. I think COVID-19, like I said, has broken that, and so children are able to relate to any adult when they step into the class. I think the content of how you teach the lesson plan, and I think that is where confidence also steps in, and the guidance and the evaluation. That is where all of that comes into play, because if you are confident in, regardless as to if we are given as an assignment, this is what we need you to teach at this school. We don't know the learners, but we are going to go in there confidently, because we were given a good lesson plan with how to execute it. It's just up to us how we are going to do it, and the confidence and the execution of that lesson is it's upon us. Because if we are, again, confident, and if we are, the guidelines are there, and we are able to still walk in and to teach, then the children will respond to us. So yes, that's just my take on it.
All right. Albertina, thank you. Please tell me, you said that the grade ones are with the grade two teachers. If the grade one teacher is not there, how do you go about the work situation? What do you teach as learners? Do they sit in the grade two class and do grade two work, or
No,
do
so
they
they
do
do
grade?
grade one. So sorry if I didn't explain it properly. So basically, our grade ones and our grade twos, they do not come on the same day to school. So they use the same classrooms. So the grade one teachers are still there. So the grade one students are there. Then the grade one teachers will teach, but the grade two teachers are also there for support. So they will get grade one learning, like their content would be grade one. And if the grade 2 learners are there, the grade 2 teacher will teach them, but the grade 1 teacher are there to support. Am I making sense?
Yes, thank you. I understand now. Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to add? No problem. Kathleen, would you like to add to that? It's like you said with
Yes,
COVID. Yes.
no, you can go first,
No, I'm listening.
And like Ivana said about the learners that get comfortable with the teachers of their own class. And I also agree with Courtney. They said if a teacher plan for his lesson and has a lesson plan, then there will no problem for the other teacher to take over and to make sure that the children understand the lesson. If the the teacher of the class is absent.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Listen, teachers do get sick, and if they do get sick, they must know that the lesson plans are in order so that if another teacher comes in to take that class for a day, the lesson plan is there and it's written out in such a way that the next teacher can understand and make sense of it, what to do. And then they can also make use of the DBE books. You know the DBE books.
Yes, the blue books.
The blue books, the red books, yes. So if
Yeah, the blue and red depends on the subject.
the subject's correct, yes. So if a teacher's absent on a particular day and you don't know what to do with the learner, or they get a parent in, because some schools do get parents in to help out, then they can make use of the DBE book, because in the DBE books there is dates which a child must complete it, and also it runs concurrently with the lesson plans. Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yes, and I know some of the teachers at our school, they actually use the blue books or the DBE books at least, as part of the lesson plan, because that obviously guides them, and like you say, they can use that in conjunction with the lesson plan, so they could send the books home as homework to reinforce what they have taught in class.
Yes, that can be part of your resources that you're using in class.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a
So,
time. There was a time.
yes.
Sorry, Portia. There was a time where I actually used the activities out of the life skill book, because there would also be sessions where they ask for the coach to perhaps play a certain game with the kids or something. So I would also use that as part of the skills that I do, just to also prepare for the assessment mainly.
Yes, yes, correct. Anyone else? Thank you.
Can I just add the last part quickly? What I would use is I would use slides. Especially like I'm focusing on now the smaller learners. So I will use slides. It's very interesting for them and they catch their attention because they see the slides on the board, backboard, or on the wall. So I will use slides, like in that case. I will use the slides to get their attention.
Tell me, the slides, does it have audio with it, or is it just like PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, audio with it, yes.
All right. Thank you. So, as you can see, the characteristics of a good lesson plan, as we discussed now, it's always in the written form. And then the general importance of the lesson planning is the general objectives that should be clearly identified or defined. The lesson plan should also relate to the suitable teaching method that you're going to use, because there's various methods you can make use of. Can you perhaps think of a method that you use in your class, or just share what the teachers use in your classes?
Like mostly they use writing, flashcards, like sticks, like you must be very creative. Like, but mostly it's writing
Yes,
that
with
I've
the
seen.
great art, you must be very creative just to
Mm.
get them interested in what you're teaching them. Anyone
Yes,
else?
Yeah, there's also the audio style where it's videos or something that the learners are watching. Unfortunately, the teachers obviously had to move away from group discussions and teamwork type of task or things. So yeah, but mainly writing as well.
Thank you.
We use it's with the art we use pictures, and then obviously to explain them how it's going to be drawn, we will then also draw. I don't know if that would be part of writing, but we would draw on the blackboard.
Yes, writing is the main thing, but then you must also take into consideration that each learning area or subject, you will use different teaching methods to get to the objective or to get the desirable outcome at the end of the day. Then the subject, time, and class should also be mentioned in your lesson plan, as we already said. And it's also important to have examples that you include that examples in your lesson plan, as one of you just mentioned. Inspirational and motivational methods, you should include that also in your lesson plan, just to motivate the learners. How will you incorporate that in your lesson plan? How will you motivate the learners? What will you do? What activities?
Portia, I would say if it's activities that is obviously relatable to the learners and that motivates them to participate and to go and do research if it is inclusive, of course.
Portia,
Yes, thank you.
when I do mathematics like timetables, I do a little dance because I give grade 2 and grade 3 class. So when I do a little dance, they understand, okay, like you clap your hands for 2 times 1 or something like that. And that keeps them interested in the work.
Yes, that's correct. Correct. Anyone else? Kathleen, would you like to share what you do? Liane or Megan?
Um, the kids kind of love the art, but due to the COVID, we at the beginning they couldn't come to the art class, so we had to go to them, and they had to use what they had in their pencil cases. So we had to really think outside of the box to keep them interested in still using just crayons and scissors and pencils. So we would kind of like 3D build things with papers. And they love that because usually everything that they do would be 2D and on a paper. So yes, changing up the things that you usually do keeps them interested because, yeah, like I've said, they usually just paint something or draw something or work with clay, when now they did something completely different than what they usually would do.
Thank you. Now they get exposure to using different resources and different materials, because with COVID now is that every learner must use their own stationery, their own paper, and you're not allowed to give them what you want them to
Yes.
incorporate in the lesson. Yeah, that's
Yes,
one.
and something that was also quite interesting with that is that they also learned to use things, because some of the learners also stayed at home and then had online class, that you use what you have, and that also made them think outside of the box. Because, for instance, there was a learner that didn't have paper at home, and she had to think of something else to use to create what we wanted them to create.
So it also stimulates their thinking and problem solving.
Great. Anyone else? With COVID-19, we must really be creative now. Everyone, we can't just stick to the old conventional ways of using the methods that we used to. We must change. And technology is playing a big role in COVID-19 now, and especially in schools. I don't know if you make use of WhatsApp web at your schools or just any way and means to do it electronically or using technology. Do any of you do that at your schools?
Yes, Portia, we've got the Google Drive that we upload all the notes onto for the learners. So there is the WhatsApp groups going around where the teachers are obviously sharing the information, but we do have the Google Drive where the learners can also access and interact with the lesson plans. Because what we usually do, or what I do, is the lessons that I prepare, I load them onto the Google Drive as is, and here and there I try to add links that would take the learners to a YouTube video where they can also share in the experience that the learners in the class would be. So it's not just a matter of them reading the notes, but it's also, I try to always add a video or something or pictures that obviously stimulates them in participating.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, you may go ahead.
Sorry,
No
I've also
problem.
seen with the I think it is the grade threes, they've used their PowerPoints and then the teacher would record her voice in the lesson and she'll add that to the PowerPoint so that she can walk between the learners and see, because their tables are quite far away so that she can still move, because she wasn't allowed and she could see it's influencing the learners badly. So she had to make a plan to be able to talk and keep their focus on the board while she is able to assist them at their table as well.
Yes, I know about that as well. That is, I'm not sure if that is on Worksheet Cloud, but I know Worksheet Cloud, we also started using that for our grade sevens when they just returned to school. And there was obviously teachers that taught specifically math or English and that. So what our teachers did was play them those slides. And like you say, it's a PowerPoint presentation where the person is still teaching and interacting with the slide, and the learners are focused, and it allows the teacher then to move in between the learners and make sure that they are paying attention.
Courtney, sorry to interrupt you. Can I just add, not all of the schools are privileged to have PowerPoints advantage there by their school. Like in rural areas, you won't get it. So then their teachers must look for like other ways how to give the information to the learners, because not all of the schools are privileged enough for that.
Yes, I would actually, if there's someone
Yes,
who
that's
teaches
correct.
at a school like that, I would actually be quite curious to know how you, I know it's not
Yeah.
part of the lesson today, but I would actually be
Yes.
interested in knowing how do you
You
approach
know,
that?
I actually want to add, because we do also accommodate for that. So for the ones that are not attending school, the ones that are not receiving the contact time, what we do, we have that same lesson printed as well. So there is hard copies for the parents who can't access it, and we avail that or make that opportunity available for the learners or parents who come and fetch the worksheets and the packs with activities included. And that is how they then learn. So they then obviously have to learn by themselves. Whereas if they were able to access the video or those resources, it would obviously be better. But yes, we do accommodate for that as well.
Yes, that's correct. What schools do is, like Courtney said, they make study packs or compile study packs for each grade, and on certain days, parents have to fetch learners books or say lessons that they must do at home, and then they must bring it back to school on a certain day for teacher to mark and for parents to collect their new lesson packs. And then other thing they also do is have WhatsApp group with parents, and if you can maybe put the documents or the lesson or the what you want the learners to do on your phone, you can always distribute it via WhatsApp to the parents as well, or they can log on to the YouTube channel that you have.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. No, I'm just agreeing, Portia. I'm
All
just
right.
agreeing.
And then just two more things on that is the lesson planning. In the lesson planning, the time for each topic should be appropriately be predetermined, as you know by now, because that you must do once you compile your lesson plan. And also in the lesson plan, the techniques and the supportive materials of education like charts, maps, audio, audio visual materials should be written up in your planning. Then lastly, it is important also to note that lesson planning is a thinking process and not just filling in of a lesson plan. That's why I wanted us to discuss today what a lesson plan is, the characteristics and the importance of it before we go straight into doing the actual lesson plan. Students, can we just take a break? Maybe you can go make coffee for 5 minutes and we'll be back, say, by 12:05?
11. Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
for
Five,
sure.
11. Oh, sorry, 11, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Enjoy coffee quickly, eh?
Okay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Portia.
All right. Good day, students, you're back.
Hi, Portia. Yes, I am.
Good, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah. All right. Sipeshrishle, tell me, are you here? Sipeshrishle?
I'm back, ma'am. I'm here.
Thank you. Sipeshrishle, I saw your comment in the chat box. Would you like to share it with us, please? What you experienced yesterday?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yes, so yesterday I was in the class for grade R and the teacher wasn't there. So the learners were very, very quiet. And the teacher in the other grade R was like, the learners are very sweet with you. So they are very shy to talk, to bring the work to me. So because the teacher wasn't there and they're used to being around their teacher, they couldn't come to me and communicate and interact. They were very, very shy.
And tell us about the resource packs that you sent home with the learners, please.
So we on Thursdays and Tuesdays, it was between the time of the not the lockdown, but just when the school opened, when there was only grade sevens coming in. So the teachers made the packet for the other grades who couldn't come to school, and then the parents would come on Tuesdays and Thursdays to come collect for like maybe an hour, so that the learners can do homework and some assignments, so that when they come back they at least have learned something. So the learners who actually did the activities, they're doing better than those who didn't come to get the resource packets. So yeah, it helped those who actually did the activities, and the ones who didn't, they still struggle, especially the grade ones and the grade R's, to write their names and things like that.
Yeah, that is the problems we have at schools now. And just tell me one more thing. Do you still continue with the resource packs?
I don't, because all the kids are now coming, so we don't do that anymore. They get the packs at school or in class, the work they do on that day. I think a grade comes twice a week because we divided the classes into two groups depending on how many kids are in the class. So on that day, they get the work to do, and the next week or the next day that they come, they bring that homework, but it's not as much as it was before.
All right. Thank you for that. Eh?
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you. Anyone like to add to that? Do any of you still make
Yes.
use of? Yes.
Yes, Portia. For me, like my daughter is in grade R now. So nowadays they just send you the file over the group and then you must go and print it out yourself
All
because of
right.
the yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else before we continue? All right. You can still see my presentation, students?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Okay. Hope you enjoyed coffee, eh? And you're awake now. Are you awake? Right. So I said it's important to have a lesson plan because you must always ask yourself the question, seeing that it's a thinking process. What am I teaching? Who am I teaching? How will I teach it? And how will I know if the student understand it? So let's just go ahead. Now you must set objectives for your lesson plan. How do you go about setting objectives? Anyone? You must certainly have a goal in mind. Can you hear me?
Sorry, Portia, can you just repeat the question?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I was just about to
All
answer. I
right.
just came to sit down now. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me, Courtney?
Yes, Portia, I can.
Oh, okay. Good. Setting of objectives. How do you go about doing that in your lesson plan?
So with the lesson plan, I try to put in keywords that sort of reminds me, okay, this is where I need to ask this question to see if they understood what I was already talking about, and if not, and that is when I then try and elaborate more on a certain section of the lesson plan or not.
All right.
Because
Thank you.
I know there's okay, I should have been at 10 minutes, I should have covered this already. Check if the learners understood, check if they know what I'm talking about, and then that is how I carry on.
Yeah. But it's not always possible in practice. Did you experience that?
Yes, definitely not. Definitely not. Yes,
All right. Then we'll overlap with the
because
next
of
lesson.
yes, because of time, for instance, or the previous teacher, they took a bit longer with their session or something. Yes, so it's not always practical.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? Megan? Yeah, Nay?
Yes, I have a similar approach to what Courtney said. I put the words in bold in my lesson, and then I know that's something that they might find difficult, or that's the main focus of the lesson. So I'll go over that again, or I'll have I like adding like little speech bubbles to my PowerPoints that'll have a question so that they can discuss it and then give me an answer, so that I know that what I've done they understand. But obviously group work is not possible at the moment,
Yes.
but that's what I
No.
would do.
Yes. Thank you. Cecilia? Would you like to share with us? Oh, Ilse? Jessica? Would you like to add? Zubair, you here? Yes, I'm listening.
I think also to be very specific and to keep it like super simple when you're setting your objectives, and obviously not to like leave the topic or the objective, like don't go too far out of what you're actually trying to explain.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? All right, but setting objectives, that is normally the first thing a teacher does create as an objective. And an objective is basically the state of the purpose of the whole lesson. And that statement should answer what learners will be able to do by the end of the lesson. Do you look at that when you set your objectives for your lesson?
Yes, Portia. That is mainly the objective, and obviously the outline or the outcome, the end result, basically is.
Yes, because that objective drive your whole lesson.
Yes.
Yes, because without the objective, you will fool around. All right.
Yes, and I also think if you don't understand your objectives, that the goal that you have at the end of the day will not be reached, and I think that leaves the learners also a bit confused as to what the purpose of the lesson actually was.
Yes, because you're not really being concise or getting to the point. You're just roaming around the point, just around and around. So you're not really focusing and going to the point of what you're hoping to achieve.
Yes, like
Can
I
I
said
also
yes, you may.
sorry. Can I also add getting into routine with your class every day is also very important. So they know their routine every day. If they come to class, their routine will be like that. So that is also important, getting your class into routine.
Yes, that is very important. Yes. Like I said, with understanding the objectives, through your lesson plan, you as a teacher yourself must understand the objective of the lesson properly before you can explain it to the learners or so that they can understand it too. And the teacher must make sure that the objective of the lesson will determine the activities the learners engage in. Do you do that? How do you go about doing that? That you're making sure the objectives of the lesson will determine the activities.
So what I try to do is knowing the topic, Portia,
Yes.
I try to set up the activities before or with the activities in mind so that I can
Yes.
sort of teach the learners towards being able to answer and how to answer and how to find the information that they need to obviously answer the question. But also it's kind of difficult because you really need to consider everyone in the class.
Yes, definitely. Anyone like to add?
Yes, I also do the same where I would find my objectives and then I'll do my activities and then I'll plan my lesson around that. Because I think if you do your activity at the end, you tend to miss the point of your objectives, and you kind of lose focus of what needs to be obtained.
Yes, definitely. Just to add to what Courtney just said now, when you set your objectives, you must make sure that the lesson plan goals are compatible with the development level of the learners.
Yes.
Yes. Anyone else would like to add anything else with setting of objectives? How do you do it? How you go about doing it? What do you do when you set up objectives? All right. Yes.
I would just like to say I like using the CAPS document when I do my lesson planning, because in there the purpose of your lesson is always stated. So
Mm.
I would definitely, yeah, I always use the CAPS document to know what I'm focusing on to get the right objectives.
Yes, that's right. Because your lesson plan must be CAPS aligned at always.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
But what I found these days, there's a lot of change in the preparation that they send to the teachers, and sometimes it even came very late, like the week of when the learners do come back to school and whatever. So it's been a bit difficult because I know that the department has now said that for the teachers they should choose their topics of what they are going to teach, and obviously um, what they will be assessing on, because even there is just a guide and you can then take out what you're going to do
Yes, because
because of time constraints.
yes, because everyone's now following the trim curriculum, meaning that
Yes,
everything,
yes.
yes, is
Yeah.
but smaller, yeah. All right, then I'm selecting lesson plan materials. What do you do? Do you use the materials that will enhance your lesson, or how do you go? What do you do that will help you with the lesson, help learners understand the lesson, or you just give them?
I try mostly to incorporate videos because I find it keeps them engaged. It keeps them interested as well. So I try to mainly use videos, but of course we obviously need to also talk through and ask questions. Making sure that the learners are participating.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else?
I would like to add by Courtney with the videos. there the language barrier can also be affected there because not all of the learners would understand the videos.
So what will you do differently?
I will be creative, like use drawings, posters, and stuff like that. Like then the whole class can participate in the lesson. So
Yes,
I
you
will
can.
do like, yeah.
Yeah, that's
in-
good. Anyone else?
Yes, I would also just add to what Courtney said. I know you'll do this, but just something to keep in mind when you are choosing a video is it appropriate for the learners? And say you're doing a science lesson and you found a great video, but it's not age or level appropriate for the learners. So it's the terminology is too big for the learners to understand. And also what I do, if I show a video, I wouldn't just show them the video. I would pause in between and explain what is done in the video, even though they are explaining it. But I'm in an
Yeah.
Afrikaans school, so you don't really get Afrikaans videos. So I'll have to pause, explain in Afrikaans what is said, make sure they understand, and then I'll play the video again.
Yeah, correct. That's exactly what I do as well. So that's why I start my lesson with a video. So it's usually a 5 minute or 10 minute, if not less. But I try to include also pausing here. Did you guys understand that? What did you
Yes,
understand about
yes.
this? Just always prompting the learners and asking questions on it. And where I see they don't understand, that is where I basically come in and actually discuss further so that they do understand. So yeah, it's not just a matter of playing the video for the learners. You still have to obviously. But what I also try and do is, out of that video, I try to also set up my notes from that video so that it's also in conjunction with one another or aligned, because it's pointless. You've got a video, but your notes are saying something completely different.
Yeah, so it
It's
must
also a matter
correlate
of
with what your
joining
text.
yes,
Yeah.
you have to obviously join the information.
Also, what I do when I'm teaching with the grade ones, when we play a video, maybe that's explaining maths. After the video, what we usually do is repeat those activities that we were watching on the video to just see if the learners understood those activities and they can do them without watching the video.
That's correct, yeah. Anyone else? Zubair, do you like to add?
Hi everyone. Sorry about
Hi.
that.
Welcome.
Yeah, as far as I could hear so far, all these expressions are actually quite good. So I don't have much to have. I don't have much input here. So yeah.
All right. Thank you. Can we move on, or do you want to talk about this slide more?
You can move on. I heard everything here.
Is that all right? The rest, Megan, you fine with this slide? Can we move on?
Portia, I would like to ask a question. It's Lanta.
Jessica, can we move?
Yes, Portia, you can move on.
All right. Now, there's certain strategies that you have to follow for effective lesson planning. As you can see there on my slide, top it says, what do I want learners to learn? You must be clear on that. What teaching and learning activities will you use? And how will you check for understanding? Like Courtney said, he will ask learners if they understand while still watching the YouTube video, because you can see when learners don't understand, then they lose interest in the video or the lesson. So strategies for effective lesson planning. It's the teacher's roadmap, of what learners need to learn and how it will be done effectively during the class time or during that period. So you first need to identify the learning objective, like we said already, before planning is done. Then a successful lesson plan has three key components. It's the objective for learners learning, teaching and learning activities, then also the strategies that you be using to check learners' understanding. Now, there's also certain steps for preparing a lesson plan. I'm sure all of you read up on lesson plans. What steps do you regard as important for preparing a lesson plan? What do you think what is important to prepare for a lesson plan or a lesson plan? Please share with us.
Portia, are you asking
I'm asking.
what
Yes.
what the approach would be for setting up the lesson plan, or what the actual steps are
What
for us?
the steps, the actual steps here.
Okay, so obviously having your topic first, gathering the necessary information, then out of that information take only what you want, because like you said in the start, you don't want to overload the learners with too much information, and you can obviously gauge with what activities you are going to do, what the information is that you need the learners to actually know, so that they can answer the activities or be prepared for the assessment or exam if that is the case.
All right.
So it is a matter of obviously getting your information and then using that so that you can set up your lesson. But obviously the main thoughts and ideas. So let's say HIV and AIDS is the topic. They need to know what HIV is. They need to know what AIDS is, how it's spread, what the diagnosis is, and also what the treatment is, and if it can be prevented, how and what.
All right. Now tell me, how will you outline those learning objectives you have in your lesson plan?
So like I said, once I have the information that I need to teach, I would then start with the definition. So what is this? And then with the answer underneath, basically that is how I do my lesson plans.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Portia. No, you can go first.
Okay, thank you, Alvama. Portia, I think what I'm at the moment, because the school where I'm a class assistant is it's diverse learners. So it's learners with ADHD, learners that is on the spectrum. So these learners always, when you doing a lesson plan and when you're presenting with the teacher, she always asks me like, the children will always ask you, but why do they have to learn this? So I think it's important that before you start with the lesson planning is that when you start the when you're presenting the lesson, that you explain to the learners why they like the what he said now, like HIV and AIDS. I think it's important that you tell them beforehand why they have to learn this. So I always try to incorporate the reason in the lesson plan why they have to learn about this, why we were handling this topic, for instance.
Yes, that's correct. So when you develop your introduction, you must include that you will teach them or just tell them about the concepts and skills that you will be using for that
Okay.
specific lesson. All right.
Okay, thank you, Portia.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, I would like to add the subject life skills. Religion is also like you must be very careful with your lesson plan and your topic. If you in life skills, like for example, religion. So normally, if we get into class, you will start with a prayer or something like that, and so you must just be careful also if you give the subject life skills in religion. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is very important as well. Just be careful.
Yeah,
Um,
you know what I would do in a case like that, just to avoid offending everyone. I would much rather, instead of teaching on that, I would much rather ask the learners, um, what happens in your religion? What is your culture? How do you do this? How do you do that? So instead of me um, teaching what my religion is or what the information says or whatever resources I find, I would much rather take it from the learners, and then it also teaches them to respect one another's religions and the practices that take place. And I would then teach on that. No, but why are you laughing at this? What do you guys do in this case? What do you do? What, those type of things.
yeah.
Yes, because religion is a very sensitive topic. So let learners feel comfortable speaking about it instead of you ask or telling them or speaking about religion in general. Anyone else would like to add? Let's move on. Now the steps in preparing a lesson that we're busy with now. First of all, you must outline learning objectives. Like we already said, your first step is to determine what you want the learners to learn and be able to do at the end of the lesson. And can you tell me what is that term called? If I say, if I read you the sentence again, first steps to determine what learners learn will be able to be assessed at the end of a lesson. What is that? Is it the objectives or the outcomes I'm talking about?
It is the outcomes.
The outcomes, yes, correct. So after that, after you outline your learning objectives, then you must develop an introduction. And like you said, you will introduce your learners to the topic, ask them what they know about the topic, tap into their prior knowledge. Because remember, some of the learners will have knowledge of the topic you might be presenting. And then tell me, what do you do if there's some learners in your class have knowledge of the lesson that you'd like to present and some of them don't have? What do you do in your class?
I would use that learner, Portia, that is knowledgeable or that can talk about the topic, because I feel it would also allow the other learners to feel comfortable and obviously to participate, because if they see their friends are talking about it, obviously they would also want to say something. I remember when I was busy teaching substance abuse and drug abuse, and I just told the learners one story, and that obviously brought out the stories that they know, because I took it down to the level of what is happening in my community. So what can you tell me about what is happening in your community? Are there any individuals that you see that are using drugs or abusing drugs? And everyone then interacted, everyone then had a story to tell thereafter.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else like to add?
Portia, I see there by the steps for preparing for a lesson. Step 3 and step 4 is the same. So is there 6 steps, or because I see step 3 and step 4 is the same?
There is six steps, eh? Sorry for that. Step 3 is plan and to check for understanding, and your fourth step will be third step is to plan specific learning objectives, eh? Learning activities. And 4 must be, I'm sorry for that mistake, and 4 will be plan to check for understanding. Anyone
Okay,
else would like to add to, oh, pleasure. Anyone else would like to add to what Courtney just said?
Yes, Portia.
Yeah.
What I also realize is that class might communicate under each other easily, then you will communicate with the teacher. So the the learner that have knowledge about the topic can discuss about it, and you will see the other learners will join him and ask him questions about the topic.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, you're quite correct in saying that you will ask the stronger learners to go ahead first, but then you must also bring it closer to home for the learners that don't understand. Do you understand what I'm trying to say with that? It's like you're break it up in smaller pieces to make the learner that's not so knowledgeable on the subject to understand it. Maybe by showing pictures, graphs, or just a video before you start it. Do you do that? Because remember, with the lesson, we must reach all the learners in our class. Anyone else would like to add to that? No. Okay, then we go on to step 2, development, to develop conclusion and preview. What do you do in your conclusion normally, when you conclude your lesson? Because remember, that must be stipulated on your lesson plan as well. How will you consolidate? What will your conclusion be?
I usually, for the conclusion, I don't know, I never know if this is right,
No.
but I've not lost marks for it, as my conclusion would usually consist of recapping and then giving homework, if there's homework or assignment to be given. So that's when I would just, I would be asking questions during the lesson, and then after the lesson, I would have set questions to know that I have reached my objectives and know how to be prepared for the next lesson. Because if I know that they have not fully understood, then I know how to approach my next lesson.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else?
Portia, I don't know if I'm
Yes.
right, but in the conclusion, it's about the formal assessment, examinations, the work that is covered through the year.
You can evaluate them informally.
Yes.
Yes. That is after your lesson. Remember, that is not the assessment for at the end of the term. That is just for the lesson I'm talking about now. All right. So when you draw up your conclusion, you must reflect, ask questions, give learners worksheets and homework, obviously. Then to continue, how will you prepare the lesson plan? It's like we said in the beginning, you will have your subject, your learning area, your topic of lesson, your lesson aim of lesson, and your resources. So what will your topic be based on if you, for example, must do something or prepare a lesson for technology? Will it be based on language or life orientation? What will your topic be based on? Remember, we're talking about technology class now. And you have to prepare a topic for your lesson. What will your topic be about?
If you mean language, you mean like English language?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
no,
Remember, I'm asking
definitely
now if you need
about
to prepare
technology.
a technology lesson. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
What
No,
will your topic of the lesson be about? What will it be?
it will definitely not be about language.
Hmm.
I
About
would
language. Mm.
It would be on the terminology of the subject.
Yes.
And yeah, that they understand that. But I would be focusing on, as I said, the terminology and how it has to be used in the sense of technological themes.
Yes, correct. Anyone else? Thank you.
Yeah, Portia,
Yes, I would, for example, a different subject, for example, science. Then my topic will be experiments. So then for example, volcanoes. Sorry. And then I will give my class like to do experiments, like mix salt, vinegar together to make a volcano, and I will do more practical work then
All right.
if
So
I
your
choose
lesson
the
will,
subject. Yeah.
all right, will be based on practical strategies then. All right.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone else? Courtney, what will you do? You explained about HIV and AIDS. What will that lesson be about?
So for me, with HIV and AIDS, it would be obviously um, language as well. But
Yes.
I would try then to have the video. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to have them interact with anything. Um, I don't know if at primary school level it would be appropriate for me to have the learners interact with condoms because it's just so they can understand what contraception is
Just
and
a moment,
abstinence.
Courtney. Just hold, please.
Fabrice.
Yeah, please just pause. Someone's mic is on. Can you please turn off your mic? Mute yourself. Thank you. Yes, Courtney. Can you
Okay, good.
repeat, please?
Yes, so like I said, with HIV and AIDS, I don't know if it would be appropriate at primary school level for me to have condoms, for instance, for the learners just to understand what abstinence is about if we are going to talk about that. But I would definitely do visuals, albeit videos and pictures and things for the learners to understand. Also, in terms of the antiretrovirals, I would be projecting a lot of visuals and sound
Yes.
for them to understand and interact with this.
Yes. Yes, that's correct. Anyone else want to share what they would incorporate in their lesson plan? Jessica, please tell me what will your aim of your lesson be?
I think my aim of the lesson would be my students would leave the classroom understanding the lesson. I think that's a big part because I know that when I was in school, I would leave numerous lessons not understanding what I just learned. So I think that would be my main aim at the end of a lesson.
Thank you. Kathleen, what do you think? What will your aim be?
Portia,
Yeah.
sorry. Can I add
Yes, you may.
what Courtney's topic on HIV and AIDS? So
Yes.
I will guide my learners to make informed and responsible decisions about their health and the environment regarding the HIV and AIDS. I will think that will be my aim on that topic.
Okay, Courtney. What was your aim with that
Yeah,
HIV?
so my aim with it was for them just to understand um the disease itself. So what HIV is, what AIDS is, and how it spreads, but also abstinence. So for them to, because part of it was um, positive decision making or positive choices. So how they can obviously prevent. So it was just choices, basically, healthy choices in terms of their health, because the previous lesson was on obesity and healthy eating, and then what followed was HIV and AIDS. So obviously I tied the healthy eating with the prevention, or if somebody is infected, that they should have a healthy lifestyle, and that would obviously help them with living a healthier life.
Yes, thank you. Student that's in the arts class, tell me, what resources will you do when you discuss a certain topic with learners?
Um, s- I would, I don't know. The lessons are quite basic as it is a primary school, but we always use, if it is a practical lesson, there would always be a picture and papers and whatever they would be drawing or painting or what they would do. And we would have a paper on the board as well, and not just draw on the blackboard itself, as the chalk on a blackboard works differently than paint or than pastels do. So we would also be doing what the learners are doing. And when it is theory, we usually read the topic. We don't really make use of PowerPoints, as they don't do a lot from their textbooks. I think they work about 2 times in a term from their textbooks. And then we would be using the textbook, and they would be writing or drawing in their books.
All right, thank you. So, anyone else like to add anything? Nothing?
Yes, I would use the topics warm up and play. For example, floor work, games exploring, action songs and stuff like that. Direction, creativity. So I will use that is now in grade 4 specific. I will use that, the warm up and play in the creative arts subject.
All right, thank you. Anyone else would like to add? So this was just to get the feel of how you will prepare for lesson planning. So what we'll do when we see each other on Monday, we will start with the actual lesson plan. But in closing, I just want to tell you that to be effective in lesson planning, you do not have to be, it does not have to be a lengthy document that describes each and every possible classroom scenario. Instead, it should provide you with a general outline of your technical goals, and then also the learning objectives and means of how to accomplish them. Also bear in mind that your lesson plan is a reminder of what you want to do and how you want to do it. A productive lesson plan, they normally say, is not one in which everything goes exactly as planned. Because now with COVID, there's been a lot of disruptions, and like Courtney said, they only get the plans a day or a week before the lessons, but one of which both learners and teachers learn from each other. So a productive lesson plan is not one which everything goes exactly to plan, but one of which you and the learner both learn from each other. Anyone else would like to add anything to that?
Portia, can I just say this? What you said now brought to mind. There was a presentation on School Corridor. They are on Facebook. I think you guys should actually check that out. This lady Sharon, she does topics. So in the week, Professor Jonathan Jansen was on, and he was talking about a book that he published. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but he published a book, and the purpose of the book was, or the writing style of the book was submissions from learners. The book is the learners' experience under lockdown and how they learned under lockdown. So what they did was submit emails of their stories of how learning took place and how they experienced it. And he basically just took all of that and put it in the book. So it's not a book that he was writing, but he was actually using the content from what was submitted from the learners. And I think I want to get my hands on that book as well. It's only 100 Rand. So yeah, that is something that I would like to also see, and it would obviously help teachers understand how to plan their next lessons, for instance, in terms of this pandemic.
Tell me, is that on Facebook, or where can they get hold of Corridor, or where can they search
Yes,
up on Corridor?
yes.
On Facebook.
School Corridor is on Facebook. Yes, School Corridor is on Facebook.
All right. Just type it in the chat so they can have a look at it, please.
Okay, will do. They are live every Tuesday at 7 or 7:30.
All right. Thank you.
Sharon Lewin is the lady's name that is the host of the show. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Anyone else would like to add in closing? Learners, please, students, before we leave, please post your serial number in the chat function, and please complete the attendance register and feedback form as well. Do any of you have problems with typing in your student number? Please give it to me. I have two student numbers with me already.
You have mine already, Portia,
Yes,
because I
Kathleen,
can't.
and yes, I do have yours.
And Alverna.
Alverna, yes. Can you complete the feedback form, everyone?
I can't open the attendance register on my side.
All right, but I have your student number.
Student number. Okay.
Yes.
No
And
problem.
Kathleen, I have yours as well. Who
Okay,
else
thank you.
struggle? Leisha?
Portia, I added the link for the book that I found quickly. They can just go view that if they want to.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Right, you can just look in your chat. On that note, thank you, students. Enjoy your Saturday, and thank you for attending this class. Hope to see you all on Monday evening again.
Thank you, Portia.
Thank you to
Thank
you
you,
too.
Portia.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Portia.
All right, bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Have a
Bye.
good weekend. Thank you so much, Portia. I'll see you guys back on Monday then. Eh?
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Portia. I stopped the recording.